In the heart of eastern Nigeria, in a small town where everyone knew everyone, a girl named Dimma was born. From the time she was a baby, her hair grew faster than anyone had ever seen. At first, it was only a small wonder, something her mother braided proudly and showed to neighbors. But as she grew older, the hair grew stranger. By the time Dimma was 12, her thick black hair touched her knees. By 19, it swept the ground like a flowing river of dark strands. Every month her mother cut it, yet within weeks, it grew back longer, heavier, and stronger. People laughed at first, saying she was blessed by the gods. Women asked what oil she used. Children tugged at the heavy strands in awe. Some men even joked, "I will marry her for her hair alone." But soon, the laughter faded. The hair refused to stop. No matter how many times Dimma cut it, it always returned, doubling in length. By 20, she could no longer hide it. The long strands dragged behind her like ropes, sweeping the dust of the streets. Neighbors began whispering. "This is not normal," they said. "Maybe it is a curse." At first, Dimma ignored the whispers. She walked proudly through the market, her head high. But the whispers turned into mocking. Boys began shouting after her, calling her spirit woman and ghost girl. Others said evil spirits lived inside her hair. Dimma's heart grew heavy. She wanted to be ordinary, but her hair made her different in a way she could not control. Her father, once proud of her beauty, now told her to stay inside the house. "People will not understand," he said. "Better you stay hidden." But hiding did not solve the problem. Inside the house, the hair still grew and grew. It spread across the floor, tangled around chairs, blocked the doorway, and even clogged the bathroom pipes. Her mother burned the cut hair at night, fearing someone might use it for witchcraft. The smoke of burning strands filled the air, leaving the house smelling strange. Dimma tried everything. She tied her hair in knots. She wrapped it in heavy cloth. She used hot combs and even burned the roots. But nothing worked. By morning, her head was always heavier. The hair pulled at her scalp until her neck ached. She could no longer sleep peacefully. Each turn of her head brought pain, each step made her back throb. One day, her parents took her to a hospital in the city. Doctors stared in disbelief. They shaved her head completely, leaving her scalp raw and sore. For a week Dimma felt light, almost free. But then, the hair grew back, faster than ever. Within days, it covered her shoulders, her back, and the floor. The doctors admitted they had never seen such a thing. Back home, her family was torn apart. Relatives argued about what to do. Some said she must see a pastor. Others whispered about taking her to a shrine. A few suggested she be sent abroad. But no one wanted to pay the cost. And while they argued, Dimma sat in her small room, surrounded by hair that never stopped. She began to hate mirrors. When she looked into them, she saw not herself, but a prisoner. What once seemed like beauty now felt like chains. She wished she could shave it all away and never see it again. The girl who once laughed with friends in the market now spent her days in silence, the sound of scissors and razors filling her world. Every morning, she woke with hope that maybe today it would stop. But every morning, more strands fell heavy across her face. Dimma's story began as a wonder, but now it was turning into suffering. She lay on her bed one evening, her head throbbing with pain, her heart aching with loneliness. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Why me? Why can't I be free?" At that moment, she heard a knock on her door. Slow, heavy, almost cautious. Her mother stepped in, her eyes full of worry. "Dimma," she said softly, "there are people waiting outside. They say they want to see you." Dimma forced herself up, dragging the heavy strands behind her like a chain. She had no idea who these strangers were or what they wanted. But as she stepped outside, her life was about to change forever. For there stood two figures in sharp suits, carrying a black folder that held her picture taken in the market without her knowing. Their eyes were cold, their smiles thin. And from the way they looked at her, Dimma felt a shiver. Her story was just beginning. The strangers stood in front of Dimmer's house, their presence like shadows on a sunny day. They were not like the townspeople she knew. The man wore a dark suit that seemed too hot for Nigeria's sun. The woman carried a black folder, her eyes sharp and unreadable. Her mother whispered nervously, "They came for you." Dimmer's heart pounded. She dragged her heavy hair out the door, each step pulling her down. When she stood before them, the woman flipped open the folder and turned it around. Inside was a picture of Dimmer, walking in the market. Her hair trailing behind like a rope. "You," the woman said flatly. "This is you. And the world has already seen it." Dimmer's knees weakened. She had never posed for such a picture. She had never even seen it before. How could these strangers have it? The man gave her a polite bow. His voice was calm, too calm. "We work for a company that specializes in human hair products. But yours is not ordinary. It grows faster than anything we have seen. We would like to help you. We will house you, pay you, even send money to your family. And most importantly," his eyes narrowed, "we can cure you." The word cure made her mother gasp. Her father, who had come outside now, stepped closer, listening carefully. Dimmer stood frozen, clutching her long strands in both hands. Could it be true? Could they really stop this nightmare? Her father broke the silence. "If they can cure you, then listen. This is your chance, Dimmer." But Dimmer's heart was not so quick to trust. "How?" she asked, her voice shaking. "How can you cure me? Show me the doctor. Show me the medicine." The strangers exchanged glances. The woman closed the folder and gave a thin smile. "Very well. We can arrange it. But first, you must sign a contract with us. 2 years. During that time, we will take care of your hair. At the end, you will receive the cure." Her mother's eyes filled with hope. Her father nodded quickly. "Sign, Dimmer. Sign. You cannot keep suffering here." But Dimmer shook her head. "Not yet. I need to see the truth with my own eyes." The strangers agreed. Within weeks, her visa was prepared. Dimmer, who had never left her small town, found herself on a plane to China. The world outside Nigeria was bigger than she had imagined. Bright lights, tall buildings, strange voices everywhere. But inside her, the same fear lived. At the hospital, doctors examined her with shock. They confirmed that a rare cure existed, but it could only be given after the 2-year contract. Until then, they gave her medicine to ease her headaches. For the first time, Dimmer felt a little hope. If the doctors said it, maybe it was true. Back home in Nigeria, her parents argued no more. They pressed her to sign. And finally, tired of pain, tired of being a prisoner in her own body, Dimmer agreed. Her signature sealed her fate. Life changed quickly. She was given a beautiful apartment, far from the small mud house she grew up in. She had soft beds, air conditioning, food she never dreamed of. Every week, workers came to cut her hair. They carried it away in huge bundles, packed into crates. The company sent money to her parents. For the first time, her family lived comfortably. Neighbors who once mocked her now whispered in awe. Some called her blessed again. Others were jealous of her new life. But Dimmer knew the truth, her body was still chained. For though the world thought she was lucky, the hair never stopped. Each night she lay awake, feeling it spill across her pillow, winding around her like a snake. The medicine dulled her pain but did not end it. She lived in a golden cage, rich but not free. She told herself, 2 years. Just survive 2 years. Then I will be cured. Yet deep inside, a shadow of doubt grew. She had seen the company's hunger in their eyes. They did not see her as a woman. They saw her as material, something to cut, pack, and sell. One evening, she stood before her mirror. Her long strands fell around her feet, shining under the bright apartment lights. She touched them, but instead of pride, she felt chains. Her whisper filled the room. "I am not free. Not yet." And in her heart, she knew, The true test of her journey had only just begun. For the first time in her life, Dimmer lived in comfort. Her new apartment was high above the city streets, with tall glass windows that looked down on cars and lights that never seemed to sleep. The bed was soft, the food was plenty, and the clothes they gave her sparkled like the ones she had once seen only in magazines. Every week, workers came to cut her hair. They brought sharp scissors and large bags, hauling away bundle after bundle. The strands were packed into crates, taken to places she never saw. Dimmer sometimes asked where the hair went, but the workers only smiled and said, "Do not worry. You are helping the world." Money flowed to her parents in Nigeria. Her father called her often, his voice filled with joy. "We are eating well now, Dimmer. The roof no longer leaks. Your brothers are back in school. You have saved us." Hearing this, Dimmer felt a small comfort. At least her suffering had meaning. Yet in the quiet nights, when the workers were gone and the city outside grew silent, she felt the weight of her reality. No matter how much hair they cut, by morning her head was heavy again. The medicine from the hospital eased her headaches but never fully stopped them. Sometimes she pressed her hands against her scalp, whispering, "Please stop, just for one night." But the strands always returned, long and unending. Her life looked golden, but it was still a cage. The company treated her kindly on the surface. They sent maids to clean her apartment, drivers to take her to shops, and guards to protect her. But Dimmer noticed small things that troubled her. Whenever she asked about the cure, they smiled politely but never gave a clear answer. Whenever she mentioned the end of her contract, they changed the subject. Once, she overheard two workers talking as they packed her hair. One said, "This is worth more than gold. Imagine if she stopped tomorrow. The company would collapse." The words stayed with Dimmer. More than gold. She began to wonder, did they really want her cured? Or did they only see her as a treasure chest that must never close? One evening, she stood before the mirror in her apartment. Her hair, freshly cut that morning, already touched her waist. She touched the strands, shining black under the light, and shivered. "This is not beauty," she whispered. "This is chains." Her heart ached for freedom. She remembered her small town in Nigeria, the dusty streets, the sound of children playing, the smell of roasted corn at the market. She remembered how she once laughed with friends before the curse of her hair grew too heavy. She longed for those simple days. Now she lived in a room filled with riches, but her soul was empty. Months passed. The calendar on her wall showed how slowly time moved. Each day felt like a repeat of the last: cut, pack, send away. She began to feel like a machine, not a human. Her mother's voice on the phone was always hopeful. "Just hold on, Dimmer. After 2 years, you will be free. The cure will come." Dimmer nodded and forced a smile, but her heart carried doubt. She had seen too much greed in the company's eyes. One night, as she lay awake with pain crawling through her skull, she whispered into the dark, "What if they never let me go? What if I am their prisoner forever?" The thought kept her awake until morning. Still, she tried to stay strong. She told herself the journey was almost halfway done. She counted the months, the weeks, the days. She tried to believe in the promise. But a shadow had already entered her story. It showed itself one afternoon when she was invited to the company's headquarters. The director, a tall man with a cold smile, welcomed her into his office. He praised her. He thanked her for her service. He spoke about profits and growth. Then, as she left, Dimmer noticed something on his desk, a small glass vial filled with a strange clear liquid. She had seen it once before in the hospital. The cure. Her breath caught. So it exists. It is real. But why was it sitting there, untouched, while her body still suffered? The director caught her staring. He slid the vial into a drawer with a calm smile. "Your time is not yet finished, Dimmer. Patience." Her chest tightened. For the first time, fear filled her stronger than ever. She realized then that the cure was not the problem. The problem was the people who held it. She walked out of the office with her head down, her hair dragging behind her like a rope. In her heart, she knew, the company did not see her as a woman. They saw her as gold. And gold was never set free. Dimmer had counted every sunrise and every moonrise since she signed the contract. 2 years felt like forever, but she told herself each morning, I am closer to freedom. Her apartment was still filled with luxury, soft carpets, wide mirrors, silver spoons, and food that never ran out. Workers still came every week to cut her hair and carry it away in heavy crates. Money still flowed to her parents in Nigeria, and her family still lived in comfort because of her. But inside her heart, Dimmer felt heavier than ever. The medicine they gave her for the headaches had grown weaker. At first, it made her pain bearable. Now, it only dulled the edge. The sharp aches returned stronger, making her nights long and sleepless. She often pressed her palms hard against her head, whispering, please, let it stop, just for one night. But the hair always grew, and the pain always followed. She was trapped in a circle she could not escape. One evening, she sat by her window, looking out at the city. Lights sparkled everywhere, cars moved like ants, and tall buildings touched the sky. People below walked freely, laughing, talking, living their lives. But Dimmer was not free. Her body belonged to the company. Her phone rang. It was her father. His voice was cheerful, full of pride. My daughter, you are our savior. Your brothers eat well. We have a new roof. You are strong. You are blessed. Dimmer smiled softly, but her heart was torn. She wanted to tell him the truth, that she was not free, that her body was breaking, that she feared the company more than her curse. But she kept quiet. She could not take away his happiness. Instead, she said, soon, Baba. Soon I will be cured. The days crawled forward. Finally, the calendar told her it had been 2 full years. Dimmer's heart raced with hope. This is the day. The cure will come. I will be free. She dressed carefully, tied her long hair into thick knots, and went to the company's headquarters. The guards escorted her to the director's office. The tall man sat behind his desk, smiling the same cold smile she had seen before. Dimmer stood tall. It has been 2 years. I came for the cure. The director leaned back, folding his hands. His eyes glowed with amusement, not kindness. The cure? Ah yes, the cure exists. But not today. We need you for another year. Dimmer's breath stopped. Her chest tightened. Another year? That was not the promise. You said after 2 years. The director shrugged, as if her pain meant nothing. You are valuable, Dimmer. Do you know how much your hair is worth? More than diamonds. More than gold. We cannot let that end so quickly. Her hands trembled. She wanted to shout, to cry, to beg. But she saw it clearly in his eyes, the company never planned to free her. She was not a patient. She was not even an employee. She was material. A resource. The director opened a drawer and took out the small glass vial she had seen before. The cure. The answer to her suffering. He held it up just long enough for her to see, then placed it back inside. Yes, the cure is real. But it will wait. You will wait. Dimmer's knees felt weak. The room spun around her. The hope she had held for 2 years crumbled like dry leaves in her hands. Back in her apartment, the walls no longer felt soft or beautiful. They felt like prison bars. Guards followed her everywhere. Her phone was taken. She was never alone. Even when workers came to cut her hair, their eyes looked at her not as a woman, but as a treasure chest they needed to empty again and again. The golden cage had cracked. Inside, it revealed its true self, a prison built of wealth, chains, and lies. Dimmer cried through the nights, her head pounding, her hair growing like endless vines. She whispered into her pillow, they will never let me go. I am not free. I am their prisoner. Each day, the workers carried away more crates of her hair. Each day, her health grew weaker. Each day, her hope sank deeper. The golden cage was no longer golden. It was rusted, sharp, and cruel. And Dimmer knew, if she did not fight, she would die inside it. The nights in Dimmer's golden cage had grown longer, darker, heavier. She no longer slept. Instead, she stared at the ceiling, whispering to herself, "If I stay, I will die. If I run, maybe I will live." The headaches were sharper now. Sometimes blood ran from her nose. Sometimes her hair grew so fast that workers had to come twice in 1 week to cut it. Every time they left, she felt weaker, emptier, more broken. But deep inside, something new was also growing. A fire. A question. What if I could escape? One stormy night, Dimmer stood by the window. Rain hit the glass like small stones. She looked down at the streets far below. People moved quickly with umbrellas, free to go wherever they wished. She pressed her palm against the glass and whispered, "I want that freedom. I need that freedom." She began to watch the guards more carefully. When did they change shifts? Which hallway stayed quiet the longest? Which door opened with the smallest delay? She studied the rhythm of the building like a student studies her books. The workers never looked at her eyes. The guards never spoke much. But Dimmer had one weapon left, the hair itself. One morning, as the workers finished packing her hair into crates, she asked softly, "Where does it all go? What do you do with it?" The man looked at her but quickly shook his head. "Not our concern. Just do your part." But she caught a flicker in his eyes, a secret he carried but dared not share. That tiny flicker told her the truth. Her hair was not just being sold. It was being used for something far bigger, maybe darker, than she could imagine. Her fire burned hotter. "They use me. They lie to me. But they cannot hold me forever." The next week, during another haircutting session, Dimmer tested her idea. She let her hair fall across the worker's wrist, thick and heavy. He tried to brush it aside, but the strands clung tightly, wrapping around his arm like a rope. He yanked his hand back, cursing. "Control it," he shouted. Dimmer lowered her eyes and apologized. But inside, she smiled. She had learned something new. Her hair was not only a curse. It could also be her weapon. Her escape plan grew in silence. She saved her strength, though it was little. She memorized doors, sounds, shadows. She began to imagine the night when she would break free. Then came a turning point. One evening, the director himself visited her apartment. He looked at her pale face, her trembling hands, and laughed softly. "You are weak, Dimmer. But weak things can still be useful. Don't think of escape. You belong to us." He walked out, leaving his cologne hanging in the air like poison. Dimmer clenched her fists. His words were meant to crush her, but they did the opposite. They sharpened her will. "I do not belong to them. I belong to myself." The night of the storm arrived. Wind howled outside, thunder shook the walls, and rain poured like a river. Guards were restless, distracted, moving slower than usual. Dimmer sat quietly until midnight. Then she stood. Her hair had grown long again, heavy down to the floor. She loosened it, letting it spread like a cloak around her. She whispered, "Tonight, my curse will be my wings." She moved quickly. When the first guard blocked her path, she threw her hair around his neck. He struggled, but the strands pulled tight like a rope. He fell, silent. Dimmer stepped over him, her heart pounding. Another guard appeared. She whipped her hair forward, blinding his eyes, wrapping his arms until he crashed against the wall. Her heart raced faster. Every step felt like fire and thunder inside her chest. She reached the main hallway. Ahead stood the giant steel doors that led outside. But as she ran toward them, the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed. Sirens filled the building. The company had caught her. Footsteps thundered from every side. Guards shouted. Workers ran. Dimmer spun, her hair flying like 1,000 snakes, striking left, striking right. But there were too many. Her legs weakened. Her breath grew shallow. She could not fight forever. She looked once more at the steel doors, just a few steps away. Freedom was so close, yet so far. Dimmer fell to her knees, her long hair spread across the floor like a sea of black. The guards closed in. The golden cage was pulling her back. But even as they seized her arms, her eyes burned with fire. She whispered to herself, "This is not the end. One day, I will break through. I was born to be free." And though they dragged her back into her prison, the storm outside answered with a roar loud, wild, and full of promise. Dimmer sat in the cold white room, her wrists tied to the chair with metal bands. The escape attempt had failed. Her body was bruised, her lips were dry, but her eyes still burned with fire. For hours, no one spoke to her. The guards stood silently by the door, their guns resting heavy in their hands. The air smelled of chemicals and fear. Then the director entered. His shoes clicked against the floor. His smile was wide, but his eyes were sharp like knives. "So," he said softly, the little bird tried to fly. "Did you enjoy the storm outside, Dimmer? Did it taste like freedom?" She said nothing. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed calm. The director circled her like a lion circling prey. Then he stopped and leaned close. "You want to know why we will never release you? You want to know why your hair is worth more than your life?" He clapped his hands. The guards dragged in a crate. They opened it. Inside lay bundles of her own hair, tied in golden ropes. "Look," the director whispered. "Your curse is not just hair. It is power." Dimmer frowned. Power? It was only hair, heavy and painful. The director took out a small piece of the hair and dropped it into a glass of water. Instantly, the water glowed faintly, shimmering like liquid fire. Dimmer's eyes widened. "You see," he said, "your hair carries energy. It is alive. Scientists have studied it. When burned, it gives more light than electricity. When woven, it strengthens steel. When powdered, it heals wounds faster than medicine. Do you understand now? You are not a woman to us. You are a resource. A mine that never empties." Dimmer's heart sank. No wonder they would never let her go. No wonder the cure was always delayed. Her suffering was their treasure. The director straightened his coat. "You should be proud. Nations fight wars for less than what you give us. You carry the future of energy, medicine, and wealth. And it all grows from your head." Dimmer's voice finally broke through, trembling but strong. "And what about me? What about my life? My freedom?" The director's smile faded. "Your life is the price. Your freedom is gone. Accept it. Stop fighting. Serve your purpose." He turned and walked away, leaving her shaking, her heart torn between rage and despair. That night, back in her locked apartment, Dimmer pressed her forehead against the wall. Tears ran down her face. The secret of her hair had crushed her spirit. "I am not human to them. I am only power. Only wealth." But even in her despair, a small voice inside her whispered, "They may use me, but they cannot own my soul." She thought of her family back home. Her father's laughter, her mother's warm eyes, her little brothers running barefoot through the yard. They believed she was safe, believed she was healing. If they knew the truth, their hearts would break. "No," she whispered to herself. "I cannot die here. I must find another way." Weeks passed. Guards followed her everywhere. Workers cut her hair more often. Scientists tested her blood, her skin, her breath. She felt weaker each day. But her mind grew sharper. She began to see the truth more clearly. The company feared her as much as they used her. Why else would they lock her so tightly? Why else would they hide her from the world? Her curse was their secret, but it was also her only weapon. One evening, as workers packed away her hair, Dimmer caught sight of the glowing strands in their crates. The light shimmered like fire trapped in ropes. A thought struck her. If my hair carries power, maybe it can also destroy. If it can heal, maybe it can kill. If it can build, maybe it can break. Her heart raced. Perhaps her curse was not only their tool. Perhaps it was also her key. For the first time in weeks, Dimmer smiled. It was small, weak, but real. She whispered into the silence of her room, "If they made me a prisoner, then I will make myself a weapon. And one day, they will fear the woman they tried to cage." The storm of truth had broken over her head. The secret of her hair was revealed. The golden cage was now sharper, colder, and more dangerous. But Dimmer's spirit was no longer only a victim's spirit. It was the spirit of a fighter, waiting for her moment. And deep in her chest, a new fire burned. The fire of revenge. The rain fell hard against the tall glass windows of the company building. Lightning cracked the sky, and thunder rolled like a drum of war. Inside her locked apartment, Dimmer sat on the floor, her long hair spread around her like rivers of golden fire. She was no longer afraid. Her eyes glowed with determination. She had carried the pain long enough. Tonight, she would rise. For weeks, she had tested small strands of her hair in secret. She learned how it could spark when twisted tight, how it could burn without flame, how it could break metal if bound in knots. She understood now her curse was not only a burden. It was her weapon. Dimmer had been a prisoner, but tonight, she would be her own liberator. She tied her hair tightly around her waist and arms like armor. She braided the longest strands into ropes, thick and strong. Then she whispered, "God, guide me. Let this suffering end tonight." At midnight, the guard outside her door yawned. He had grown used to silence. But silence was broken by a deep hum, a sound like wires shaking in the wind. He turned just in time to see the door burst open, pushed by strands of glowing hair that moved like snakes. Dimmer stepped out, her hair alive, wrapping the guard before he could even reach his gun. His weapon clattered to the floor. With one pull, she tied him to the wall. His eyes widened with fear. "You cannot cage me anymore," she said, her voice calm but heavy with power. Alarms rang through the building. More guards came rushing. Bullets fired, but the hair deflected them, twisting in the air like shields. Some strands wrapped around the guards, binding their arms. Others pushed them aside. Dimmer moved forward, unstoppable, her hair a living storm. The director appeared at the top of the stairs, his face pale with shock. "Stop her," he shouted. "She must not leave this building alive." But no one could stop her now. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step echoing like a drumbeat. Rainwater from the broken windows washed across the floor. Her hair dragged behind her, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The director stumbled back, fear finally showing in his sharp eyes. "Dimmer, you don't understand. You are the future. You are wealth. Without you, the world will lose everything we built." She stopped before him. "Without me, you lose your chains. Without me, I win my life." With one movement, her hair wrapped around his desk, snapping it in half. The glowing strands rose like flames, and the director fell to his knees. Dimmer looked down at him, her chest rising and falling. "You wanted me as a resource. You forgot I am human. You forgot I am a woman with a soul." The director trembled, unable to speak. Dimmer turned away. She did not kill him. She did not need to. Her freedom was enough punishment. Outside, the storm roared as she stepped into the night. Rain poured over her, but her hair, heavy and shining, did not slow her. She walked out of the building gates. No one dared stop her. Every strand of hair that had been cut and stored in crates began to burn on its own, glowing like fire, releasing sparks that filled the night sky. The company's secret was destroyed. Their empire crumbled in minutes. Dimmer did not look back. Weeks later, she returned home to Nigeria. Her village welcomed her with songs and tears. Her parents wept as they saw her alive. Children ran to touch her hair, but this time it was different. The hair was shorter, calm, and no longer painful. The cure had not been in any vial. The cure had been her courage. When she claimed her freedom, the hair slowed. Day by day, It shed until it rested gently at her shoulders. For the first time in years, she slept without pain. Dimmer became a storyteller in her town. She told young girls, "Do not let anyone use your gift against you. Even if the world sees you as material, remember you are more than that. You are a soul. You are strength. You are freedom." Her story spread far. People began to call her the long-haired woman, not as a curse, but as a legend. A woman who fought giants and chains, and walked home free. And the moral lived on. Beauty without freedom is a cage. Strength without courage is wasted. But when a woman stands for herself, even her curse can become her crown.